Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. This is episode number 429. Today, I'm talking about what is real. Now let's dive in. Have you already found business success but feel lonely at the top? Or do you feel like you're at a place in your business where others just don't get it? Or maybe you feel like you have to make yourself smaller in order for others to not feel less than. Or maybe just a little bit of all three? But with all that said, there is good news because I've been there and I see you, sister. I'm Taylor Bradford, the torchbearer of this podcast and sisterhood, and I'm here to lead and inspire you to stay purposely aligned in the success you have found and provide you with support, guidance, and a sisterhood to keep going. Because I do get it. Your business journey isn't meant to be traveled alone. So grab a notebook, your favorite pen, and a bevy, and let's dive into this together with this latest podcast episode. Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative and me. Hello, welcome to episode number 429. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I'm talking about what is real, and this has to do with AI and how it is affecting how we work, how we do things, but also a pharma drug called Ozempic, which the two of these things, AI and Ozempic, are totally random things. But when I received my September 23 issue of Vogue, there is an article written by Maya Singer called What's Real? And it is so incredibly thought-provoking. And I was like, you know what? I actually want to talk about this, especially the AI part, but Ozempic has a part in this as well because I didn't know much about Ozempic prior to reading this article. And that is what we're going to be talking about. What's real and what that really means. Yeah, so before we dive in, let's talk about this week's social media headlines. Social media headline number 1, EU users can soon opt out of algorithmic sorting on Facebook and Instagram. An algorithm-free experience in Meta's apps is likely to be welcomed by many and will bring them into compliance with EU's Digital Services Act. So stay tuned for that. Social media headline number 2, Meta looks to pitch next-gen Ray-Ban Stories glasses to live stream creators. This could prove to be a much stronger angle for the camera-equipped glasses. Side note, we actually have a pair of Ray-Ban Stories glasses that my husband uses for roof inspections. It allows him to be up on the roof kind of hands-free and to take videos and photos of the damage that he's legitimately seen with his eyeballs. So I can definitely see how this could be a better angle for Meta and targeting live stream creators. So stay tuned for that. Social media headline number 3, LinkedIn rolls out brand partnership tags. The added transparency could facilitate new brand creator partnerships. And that wraps up this week's social media headlines. Okay, man, here in Texas, we finally had a break in our heat bubble. It is August 29th as I'm recording this episode, and we have just been stuck in this 100-degree weather for what feels like ages. And we had, in my area, we had a huge rainstorm finally come through on Sunday, and it legitimately knocked the temperatures out of the 100s. And yesterday was a beautiful day. It kind of felt like fall might be in the air. I know we still have some warm temperatures ahead, but to break out of that heat bubble was so incredibly refreshing that all Texans are celebrating. Okay, so I want to talk about this article. This was such a great article in the September 23 Vogue magazine. Again, written by Maya Singer. And the article starts off talking about dating. Her friends are like, have you tried dating apps? And, she's back and forth about dating. And later on, she gets served on Instagram an ad for a dating app. And she's like, wow, they're listening, And I say these things to my assistant a lot. Like, oh my gosh, look what I just got served up. And 20 minutes ago, we were talking about something like that. So she gets served an IG ad for some kind of dating app, and she gets curious. So she fills out a profile, and the next day she wakes up to over 200 emails. Those 200 emails, probably every single one of them was a robot writing a love letter to her. How creepy is that? We are living in a tech world. We are saturated with apps. We are saturated with news stories. We are saturated with memes, sponsored posts, targeted ads. And we are very aware of it all. It's become our normal, and it is so gross. So we are aware everything we do is being tracked. We are accustomed to fakery. How did we get here? And we are becoming less unbothered by it, it's just normal. And it's getting weirder by the day. I mean, do you remember when the Pope was wearing some Balenciaga puffer jacket? First of all, both were fake. Both were fake. And now we're contending with the Ozempic craze, but more on that in just a minute. So what constitutes realness? Recently in the fashion world at the fall 2023 runway shows, tech was a recurring theme. Jonathan Anderson conjured a digital blur, and the experience of squinting at an image to determine its authenticity was required. Christopher Kane had hallucinogenic AI-generated prints coming down the runway. Models walking down the catwalk, staring at their phones. And then somebody included robot dogs down the runway. But then others in the fashion world took a completely opposite approach and basically said F you to technology and forcibly excused it from their shows and focused in on the craft of what makes fashion fashion. Fine handiwork detail and getting back to their own sewing machines. It is truly time for us to have a reflective pause and a reaffirmation of being a human. Human experience, human creativity, humanity's right to define the terms of progress rather than outsourcing our progress to an algorithm. Maya went to ChatGPT and asked the following questions of it. First question, what are you? It responds, a large language model. She asks, do you have an imagination? It responds, I don't possess personal experiences or consciousness, so I don't have an imagination in the way humans do. While I can provide imaginative or creative outputs based on statistical patterns and knowledge learned from my training data, it's important to remember that these responses are generated algorithmically and may not have a genuine subjective experience of imagination. She asks, what do you mean by, quote unquote, may not? It responds, by saying may not, I'm acknowledging that any semblance of imagination exhibited by an AI language model like myself is a result of pattern recognition. She asks, so in fact, you do not have any subjectivity. Is that correct? It responds, that's correct. I don't have beliefs, opinions, emotions, personal desires, or motivations. My purpose is to provide information. She asks, are you trying to destroy the world? It responds, no. It's so curious because it legitimately says, I'm not human. I'm not meant to be human. I'm not meant to have beliefs, opinions, emotions, personal desires, or motivations. It's not human. It's meant for information gathering purposes only. It is not meant to create. It is not meant to have the ability to be creative. And that's what makes us human. AI developers are getting into a regular habit of issuing open letters of warning about the advancement of AI. It is highly probable that it will become a turbocharged capitalistic society in which a host of human values is sacrificed to an algorithm, community, justice, art, relationships, experiences. And we've already adapted ourselves to quick fixes, fast food, fast fashion, scrolling Instagram and TikTok and our social media channels. We are reading less. We are seeing our friends and family less. We have become plastic. I really feel like the most recent Barbie movie is literally our world right now. We have become plastic. Our attention spans are shot. Our self-determination is out the window. We are plastic. And we are getting our fixes, our joy from our scroll. So let's chat about Ozempic. This is another technology breakthrough, and it's a super hot topic right now. And it potentially has a devastating reversing effect on the movement of body positivity as we have advanced that in the last few years. It was initially developed to regulate blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, but now is skyrocketing in use for weight loss. If you've noticed people in the public eye getting shockingly thinner, it's probably the Ozempic effect and not Photoshop. JP Morgan Chase reported in the last week of January 2023 alone, U.S. doctors wrote 313,000 Ozempic prescriptions. It was a 78% increase from the last week of January 2022. And that is just the drug Ozempic. There are others already on the market. And Ozempic has been around since 2008. They did trials through 2012 and beyond before it was actually approved to be used in its original form. And we have worked so hard on body positivity, but this trend is causing panic towards erasing all of that hard work. And it's a real threat. So now we have two algorithms, if you will, AI and Ozempic, working around the clock, and they both favor us being passive, us being placated, and us just drifting with the tide. It's how we wind up in places and wonder how in the world we got there. Because it's not where we expected to be, and it's definitely not where we wanted to be. But here we are. We are in a world where AI is generating all kinds of crazy, and we're allowing it. We're in a world where we would rather scroll than read a book. We're in a world where we'd rather hang out at home with our phones than enjoy dinner with friends. We are in a world where connection has fallen by the wayside. We are more connected to people on the internet, of some that might be fake, who knows? And the reality of that is our connection is to the device. Our connection is to the thing that we have in our hands and not to the actual person that we think we have this connection to. Early on, when I started blogging, there was true connection. You did have lengthy conversation with friends that you met online. And you got to show up at conferences and extend those relationships. You were able to create relationships with people that understood what it was that you were doing online because they did it too. It was very hard to explain what being a blogger was back in 2011. People just didn't get it. But we also didn't have access to what we have now. And that is truly frightening. The access that we have now is frightening because some of us cannot determine whether it's fake or not. And we are quick to judge. We are quick to tear somebody down. I'm not saying you or me or the listeners of my show, but we have opened up a world where it's okay to attack people online. We've opened up a world where it's okay to shame somebody, where it's okay to attack somebody, where it's okay to cancel somebody. And that's not a world I want to be in. That is not a bubble I want to be in. I want to connect with more people. I want to be intentional with my relationships. I want to get away from scrolling for the sake of having something to do. So I'm going to issue you a challenge. For the rest of this year and in 2024 and beyond, I want you to make an effort. I'm challenging you to make an effort to connect in real life with more people. I want you to be intentional in those connections. I'm not saying you need to meet all of your neighbors. I'm not saying that you need to start going to church. I need you to do one small thing at a time to create more connection with another human. Get back to the craft of connecting. Whatever that looks like for you, make an effort. Be intentional. Be purposeful. It's what I talk about all the time on this podcast. Intentionality and being purposeful. We have to do that in our lives. We have to make an effort to make that a thing. To help slow down what we've allowed ourselves, because we're part of the problem, we've allowed ourselves to be this reliant on technology. And it's just going to get worse if we don't accept the challenge to connect with more people. So, as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, I want you to connect with somebody. Whether it's a family member or a friend or your neighbor or somebody that you meet in the grocery store, checkout line. Connect. Be intentional. Use your humanness. It's all we've got. Don't waste it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you found it inspiring, I hope you'll consider sharing it with somebody. If you have not left a review for my show through Apple Podcasts, and that is where you listen to my show, please do so. So grateful if you do that. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this week. Oh, wait, before I go, thank you truly for your support of my own business journey and this podcast, The Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur. If you know another entrepreneur who is in the same business trenches, who has already found success but might be feeling a bit lonely in their journey, my hope is that you'll share this podcast and this sisterhood with them. Because this, what we do day in and day out, isn't meant to be done alone. Speaking of lonely, if you're ready to squash the business journey loneliness, stop what you're doing right now and join the sisterhood. Visit bossgirlcreative.com/sisterhood. I can't wait to see you in there.